everyone, and welcome to this segment as we continue this discussion on God's creation and the fall, and also now the hope of redemption. We discussed in the last segment how Adam and Eve were made in God's original innocence and holiness, and how that was broken in the act of original sin by falling into the temptation of Satan's snare in the Garden of Eden. God could have been completely justified in allowing us to simply fall apart. We had the opportunity to obey God and to love God, and in choosing not to do so, we should have really dealt with our own consequences to our actions, which is to suffer and never to be able to make it. On our own, that would have been the case. We could never climb back to God because we're not God, and we can't mend that broken relationship. But God does not allow that to happen, because God loves us despite our selfishness and brokenness. And that God gives us an opening and an opportunity early on in the book of Genesis. Very interesting. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, we get this passage that is messianic in quality, about the coming of an anointed one, of a Messiah, who is going to conquer the power of the serpent, who is the one who wants to destroy our humanity, who wants to mess up that relationship with God, because that's where he's at. We've heard the old maxim, misery likes company. Well, there it is. And so what we find out in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15 is this Latin phrase called the proto-evangelium, the first gospel. And it reads like this: as Adam and Eve, the first human and the first man and woman, were tempted by the serpent, and the serpent being Satan, the cause of their downfall and of original sin, we hear these words: I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and hers. You will strike at his heel while he crushes your head. Very interesting language here, because this is something that doesn't quite make sense with Adam and Eve themselves, but it is a portrayal of a future Adam and a future Eve, a new Eve and a new Adam, who are going to, in a certain sense, be the enemies. They're going to be the enemies of the serpent. That's what the word enmity means. And the new Adam and the new Eve, from what this verse tells us in Genesis, will not be a husband and wife, but will be a mother and her child. We discover that this mother, this woman, will be the enmity of the serpent. She will not share in the serpent's guile and his destructive behaviors and his sinfulness, but she will be that perfect new Eve as God had originally made Eve to be, and she, unlike the serpent, will say yes to God and also serve God, not want to be served herself or to place herself in a prideful and arrogant position. She will be really the complete opposite of what Satan represents. And her child will be the new Adam. And he will crush the head of the serpent, even as the serpent tries to strike out at him, he's going to crush him. And so that, my friends, is the good news that we discover in the book of Genesis, the good news of redemption despite our sinfulness.